Hey, so one thing that I see editors do a lot, in fact I was on set the other day and he suggested to me that his normal soundy gave him 4 audio tracks for a single person talent piece to camera. And oftentimes when I see editors and what they've done when I come to mix it, they'll have doubled up audio tracks and to try and get more level out of it and things like that. So you have to think very simplistic about audio, which is that what can I do with the minimum amount of audio tracks? So first thing is I've brought in a setup of a boom over the top and a lav mic for our talent. This is a documentary that I worked on, and in this I just grabbed something that I knew I could use, but I know in this scene that you won't be able to see is that they're all moving about and things are getting shown. But it's a documentary. The most important thing is you just want to be able to hear them, and then this is a good example of what I need to get across, which is, first thing first, if you double up the exact same audio track, which I have done here, let's make them the same level. I'm in DaVinci just so everybody can understand, and I'm going to just turn off these a second. Now I haven't done any EQ, I've just grabbed this plugin because I know because it's best for showing you, but I appreciate DaVinci will have its own. And all we're looking for is a polarity button, because what we need to confirm is the phase relationship between microphones. You get 2 microphones and they're the same distance from a source, or it's exactly the same piece of music or whatever. Doubled up is something what we call going in and out of phase. So if you have noise cancelling headphones, how they work is they've got microphones in them, they listen to the incoming signal and they play the same signal alongside it so that they both cancel each other out and you can't hear them anymore, which we'll see with this. So
I'm just freestyling in here. I think that's some mystical Cornish book. We didn't need that.
No, it's not a mystical.
So that's the audio. Let's get them both in.
I'm just freestyling here. I think that's some mystical Cornish book. We didn't need that.
So when they go out of phase, you can't even hear anything.
Freaky. Have you seen that book?
Your great grandmother's.
Have you seen how gnarly it is?
Yeah, that's how nursery rhymes and stories were.
It's spooky.
So what we get when we've got 2 different style of microphones, we've got a boom and a lav mic, is they too will be equal distance from an audio source and therefore have a phase relationship of their own. And what you get when you have that happen is what will get cancelled out first is the bass, and things will start to sound quite thin. So if we mute off the double and just go back to what we should have already, which is just 2 audio tracks, we'll play around with the phase.
I'm just freestyling here. I think that's some mystical Cornish book. We didn't need that.
No, it's not a mystical Cornish book.
What is it, Mum?
It's just an old book from.
It's freaky.
No,
Have you seen that book?
Well, that's your great.
Need that.
No, it's not a mystical Cornish book.
What is it, Mum?
It's just an old book from.
It's freaky.
No,
Have you seen that book?
Well, that's.
So the difference in the 2 pieces there is that like I said, the bass has been. It's almost like I've cut the bass out. It sounds very thin. It actually doesn't sound too bad out of phase, but it is out of phase nevertheless, and it'd be more difficult to work with that. Plus bass is what we want. We want some depth to the voice. So that's part 1. Part 2 is
I think that's some mystical Cornish book. We didn't need that.
No.
Part 2 is that we don't need to play around with the audio really too much. 99% of the time, or 95% of the time, this, what I'm about to do, would be enough. You know, you should be provided with your lav and boom. Your boom, through the nature of its size and its position, will have a lot more depth to it, but it might sound more muffled than, say, a lav mic. Lav mics are only tiny. They're under clothing. They've been designed to shoot through the clothing audio-wise, so they're much brighter, but they're also quite thin. So,
well, you said that I always liked going in the water straight away or something,
Well,
that's the
didn't you?
lav.
From day one, yeah. So you can look through those. You
Well,
can
I don't
tell-
even know what we've got.
And that's the boom.
I'm just freestyling here. I think that's some mystical Cornish book. We didn't need.
So the boom on its own is stronger, but it sounds quite dark. So what we're going to do is we're just going to feed in, and this is what you should be doing, is just feeding in the lav mic.
That.
No, it's not a mystical Cornish book.
What is
It's-
it, Mum?
It's just an old book from...
It's freaky. Have
Now-
you seen that book?
Well, that's your great-grandmother's.
Have you seen how gnarly it is?
Yeah. That's how nursery rhymes and... Oh, no, one of many.
So-
This is
Boom.
something I was going to try and talk to you guys about.
Well, you said that I always liked going in the
Missing
water
bass.
straight away or something,
Well,
didn't
pretty
you?
much from day one, yeah. So you can look through those.
Well, I don't even know what we've got. I'm just
And suddenly
freestyling
we've
here.
got a full sound now.
I think that's some mystical Cornish book, isn't it?
Now, step 2 to this would be take it one step further. Let's get our EQ up. The boom mic on this job is quite dark. So what we can do is EQ is very important, and we can do a couple of things. We can use filters to filter out the bottom and the top of I don't know my hands whether if you can filter this will be happening inside the person's recorder anyway, but it's no harm in doing it. Filter out anything below 80 hertz. Just completely cuts away all like the rumbling and things like that. And I'm just gonna, this just happened to be on 8K, and I'm just gonna boost it a little bit.
You need that.
No, it's not a mystical Cornish book.
What is it, Mum?
It's just an old book from...
It's freaky.
Now-
Have you seen that
Well,
book?
Well, that's your great-grandmother's.
Have you seen how gnarly it is?
Yeah. That's how nursery rhymes and stories were. Day one, yeah. So you can look through those. You
Well,
can
I don't
tell-
even know what we've got. I'm just freestyling here. I think that's some mystical Cornish book. We didn't need that.
No, it's not a mystical Cornish book.
What is it, Mum?
It's just an old book from...
It's freaky.
Now-
Have you seen that?
So it just adds a little bit of sheen to the whole thing. We can keep going with EQ. Certain frequencies to be aware of are 2, 3, 400. Around 2, 3, 400 range is quite is kind of like the muffled, that kind of sound. And then to enhance that even further, speech really pushes through at between 2.5 to 4.5 thousand.
That book.
Well, that's your great...
But phones and stuff do tend to push that quite a bit, so you've got to be careful not to push it too much. Sound brittle, but that can just help it just poke through a little bit. Okay. In my other video before, we did look at limiters, which is another thing. We're trying to get the best we can out of a small amount of things and a lot of level. And limiters give us that ability to straighten everything out. So let's say this is your vocal audio track. It sort of takes the bottom and the top and just squeezes it and raises the volume up to 0, digital 0. But we can do another video on that later, and it's in my previous one when we looked at exporting full projects. It's the same concept, and you can apply it to single audio channels to straighten out the level and get a little bit more gain in the process.